Hello, my name's Angela from Angela Simpson Functional Medicine Physiotherapy. And I wanted to talk to you today about gut imbalances and how they can be a very strong contributor to anxiety, especially for females in the perimenopausal years. And I'd like to talk to you about this in relation to an example of a client of mine. I worked with a client recently who had been suffering from fairly severe anxiety. She actually was to the point where she was starting to have panic attacks, and she wasn't even wanting to leave her house. She did report there was a lead up to this. She said she had had a very stressful job for the last 20 years. She said that as she got more stressed over time, she noticed that she wasn't eating as well as she normally would, or when she was eating, she was under a lot of stress. Sometimes she was skipping meals. She said she was also drinking a lot more caffeine than she typically would have 20 years ago. And she said in lieu of this, she wasn't drinking as much water and clear fluids. And she said in general, she wasn't also sleeping as well. And she noticed it was particularly worse in the last year or two. And so she said in general, she just felt like she wasn't taking as good of care of herself as she could. And she said she noticed that anxiety was slowly starting to come up on her symptom-wise. And then about a year ago, she said she actually got laid off from her job, and this caused her more anxiety. And she got to the point where she was having panic attacks if she went out of the house. She said she was at the grocery store once and she had a panic attack, and it was so severe. She said it was also quite embarrassing for her. And so she decided that she actually had to not even go out and start doing her daily life tasks anymore. And this also included socializing with her friends and family. And she did have a very supportive husband, but she said that this relationship also became quite strained because she just felt like she couldn't get out of the house and live her life anymore. And so she was at the point where she knew she had to deal with the anxiety. But to her, she thought the connection was possibly that she started to go into that time of life, which is typically classified as perimenopause. And she thought that the hormonal changes were probably what was causing the anxiety, because she did report that her anxiety got worse, especially leading up to her period about a week before. And so we did do a very detailed timeline of events for her all the way back to even when she was a child, as well as took a very detailed history of what is going on in her body. And we did discover that although there were some hormonal imbalances for her, that the biggest cause of her anxiety was probably caused from gut dysfunction. And we did some very detailed lab testing on the gut and the hormones to determine this. And we came up with a very detailed plan to help her start to rebalance the gut so that she actually could start to feel better. And the reason she needed the rebalancing in her gut was because when you have imbalances in your gut, for her, it was actually an imbalance between the positive and negative bacteria that grow in your gut. She had a lot of overgrowth of yeast and other unfavorable bacteria. And we also saw from the lab testing that her neurotransmitter production was extremely low. And neurotransmitters are chemical signalers and messengers that actually have communication between our gut, where these are produced, and our brain. And they help us to regulate our moods, especially symptoms such as anxiety and depression. These will come up if these neurotransmitters are being produced in low amounts. And so for her, we could see this very clearly, and we could see why. And so it was really important to start getting the gut back in balance to help her actually start to get better production of these neurotransmitters that help to regulate moods. And within this, she also noticed as she worked on this plan that her hormonal symptoms around anxiety pre-period started to also level out. So it took a while, but over a few months, she noticed that she was able to feel less anxious. She actually was on prescription medication for anxiety, and she was able to titrate down on it and eventually come off of it. And she also reported that she started applying for jobs again. She didn't feel anxious about the process, and she actually found herself a job that she said was going to be a much better fit for her long term because it was a lot lower level of stress on a daily basis. And then within this, she also noticed that she started to socialize again with her friends and family. This made her partner happy. They were able to go out and enjoy themselves again at things that they used to like to do. And so she said overall, she just felt like she got her life back. And so I did want to just talk about this as a case example, because I do find it's very, very common for females in the perimenopausal years to have anxiety as a symptom that comes up. And often it does come up at key points in the cycle. And so you do start to almost conclude that it is the hormone imbalances that are causing this. Although it may be related due to the timing of the cycles, quite commonly there are different or bigger root causes than just hormonal imbalances. And so it's really important to look for what your root cause is to figure out what the solution is. Because if you just treat the hormonal imbalance, sometimes you'll never actually get to the root cause and fix it over the long term. And sometimes you're just managing it and you're not actually improving on it that much. And in the bigger picture, if you aren't actually getting at the root cause of what is causing your anxiety or your mood imbalances, it's quite common that it will develop into something more. And if there are imbalances in your gut, such as immune system imbalances or inflammation that's been unregulated for a long time, it can lead to bigger concerns along the road. And this can be things such as cancer, it can be things such as autoimmunity, it can be things such as even heart disease. All of these types of conditions can develop from imbalances in the gut that have gone unregulated for a long time. And anxiety is often one of those primary symptoms that turns up when the gut has been out of balance for a long time. And so if this is you, if you think this is possibly what is going on in your life, and it's affecting several aspects of your life right now, I do suggest that you deal with it. And there is a plan and a way to help you get through this. And I'm happy to speak with you on a free 45-minute consult to talk and see if it could be a good fit for us to work together to help you improve on not only your anxiety, but your overall health and wellness. Because this is a symptom that there are several areas of your body that are out of balance and need support. So please feel free to contact me. You can reach me at my website at www.angelasimpsonfunctionalmedicine.ca, and I'd be happy to speak with you about this. Thank you and take care.